Hi, sorry, it's me again. A couple of weeks ago, I was searching for something really old, ancient even, in my chat histories guide, and I stumbled across this. At first I couldn't remember even what it was, because I've never read those books in my life. But then I remembered that was the moment when I discovered the feeling of secondhand embarrassment mixed with intense interest, also known as cringe. Years later, I feel a little bit guilty towards those books, because as I said, I've never read them. I just laughed and moved on, because I judged them by their covers. And as all wise people around us constantly say, you shouldn't do that. Never. And that's what exactly we're gonna do today. We are gonna judge the book by what's inside and not by what's on the cover. Though, of course, we're gonna make a little laugh at the cover too. But I won't be reading those books because, let's be honest, while those covers are a little bit cringy, they just reflect their genre. Nothing wrong with that. And for this video, I wanted to find something a little bit more interesting. And then I remembered that I don't even need to search. I already have a perfect candidate for that video. You know, as a non-native English speaker, I occasionally suffer and struggle with this beautiful language. Just for example, take this. Gray and grey are the same word, right? So naturally, you must suppose that pray and pray works the same, right? Well, it's wrong. So one day I was searching Goodreads for one very popular book, Eat, Pray, Love, and I made a typo in the word pray. Yes, of course I know those are two different words, it's just that was really a typo. And that's how I discovered this masterpiece. Everything about this cover is perfect, starting with the shirtless man. Although, let's be honest, shirtless man on the covers has long become a classic. But this guy is doing push-ups in front of mysterious moon, which makes it a little bit more different. Maybe he just loves working out but can't afford the gym membership. Who knows? You never know, I won't judge him. Or maybe he just loves being outdoors. Or maybe he's a werewolf who loves working out but can't afford him. Anyway, very mysterious. But actually what I liked the most was not the man himself, it was how poorly you can even see him. The image is so dark, so it looks like an entire cover, an entire background is just solid black, though maybe it is solid black, I'm not sure. But the absolute best part is the title. It's 3 words, each of them is written in a different font and a different color. It's instantly remind me how I used to mess around with this word art for school presentations. And of course, that grey stripe along the side. It is essential. You just don't understand. You are not artistic enough. Only problem is that this particular book is the book number 9 in some kind of series. And at first I thought, no problem. Of course, all of those covers are same level of unhinged. I can just pick up the first one. But no, unfortunately, all of them are not even near as good as this one. But Madison Warner Fairbanks says that it can be read as a standalone. So I'm going to trust this person and read it and see what happens with me. By the way, the rating for this book is actually pretty decent. Maybe I wouldn't even like it. Who knows? We are not judging here before reading, right? At least trying. Stop it. That is. I finished the book. Did I like it? We are not gonna talk about this. We are gonna talk about the plot. Right. It all starts with Caitlin, our main character, who is invited to her little nephew's birthday party. The nephew she's never met before. She hasn't been in contact with her sister for years at this point, and then this sister appears out of nowhere and invites her to the party. So like, yeah, I know we haven't seen each other for a very long time, but there is a party, so you better don't forget your present. Very healthy family dynamic. When she gets there, Caitlin sees a bunch of guys playing basketball, but it's all doesn't matter because he also is there. Like, hey, the guy. And our girl immediately starts swooning. Of course she does. Eventually her sister, whose name is Shanna, tells her her story. She actually married a vampire, and this house is full of other vampires, and their dad who warned Caitlin not to come to this party, and actually all those years have been hiding the information about Caitlin's sister from Caitlin is a vampire slayer or hunter, don't know. We don't know much about this guy actually. And her sister also tells that there are different kinds of vampires. This one who lives in this house are good ones. They drink synthetic blood, they don't harm humans, and they play basketball. What harm could they do, right? But there are also the bad ones somewhere out there, and these good ones, along with Caitlin's dad, hunt them. So there is basically war going on over there. And Caitlin was invited here because they want to give her a job in all those math, because she's very valuable employer. So basically her sister didn't really want to see her just because they're sisters and they can get back to contact together, maybe, I don't know, make up for all the years they lost. No, she invited her to suggest a job. We also very quickly learn that this family is anything but ordinary. I mean, the family Caitlin, her sister and their dad, because they all have psychic powers. For example, Shanna can read minds as the same as her dad, if I'm not mistaken. Caitlin can speak any language, like really any. She understands every language instantly, and after an hour or so of listening, she can already speak it. Wish I had that skill. I'm suffering through French over here, you have no idea. Oh, and that little birthday boy, he can levitate. But none of that matters either, because even in the middle of all this new information, our girl can't stop thinking about this man she saw for literally 2 seconds. That's how deeply in love she is already. After all this speaking, they came back to the gym where the basketball game is still going, and our guy finally sees Caitlin. And he literally gets smacked in the head with a ball because he also starts swooning. You see, that's the type of story we are dealing with here. And now it's time to learn a little bit more about this guy. His name is Carlos, and he's not a vampire. He's a shapeshifter. He can turn into a panther. He is originally from Brazil, from where he brought with him a bunch of orphaned shapeshifter kids who lost their parents in some kind of massacre, and now he's basically their dad. And his biggest goal in life is to find his mate. And obviously Caitlin cannot be this mate. He's just a random chick and he needs a real panther. Because children need mother. And even though he is really into Caitlin, like almost sleep with her during their first conversation ever level into her, he must resist. And then this week shows the most ridiculous scene of the year for me, to be honest. Imagine this. It's a night, parties to go in, the Carlos somewhere in the garden and talks to the married couple he knows already for a long time. Depict this. I will try to show you what happened. I'm looking for a wife. But you're gay! I'm not gay. You danced with the samba in hot pink sequin thong. Well, so what? You liked it. I changed clothes in front of you. You never asked me to leave. Oh, sorry, mate. That's not the way to handle this. Oh, yeah, thanks, mate. That's the way. What? Anyway, Caitlyn accepts the job because apparently you get to be around the hot guys. And who knows if she ever find that elsewhere. That was a clever decision. And then there's a whole chapter regarding the current state of the vampire war, and some side quests are being handed out to the other workers of this company. But all of that makes literally zero sense because the plot will come back to this the plot will come back to this literally 0 times after. Carlos, in the meanwhile, wants to run off as fast as possible to another expedition in search of his panther mates because he desperately needs to repopulate his species and to do everything that he's supposed to do to repopulate them, if you know what I mean. But he's forced to delay this because he needs to train their new recruit, Caitlyn. To be honest, he tells her up front something like, sorry, I really like you, but you know, we can't be together because I'm endangered species and so on. But this does not stop them from flirting. Oh, and you know what? Carlos has 9 lives because he's a cat. Meow. And his surname is Pantera, or better, I think it's Pantera, because he's from Brazil. So he's literally the panther. Very subtle. But technically speaking, he can bite Caitlyn and he would become a panther. But that's too dangerous and risky because some people died from this and so on. And he says that he cannot do that to her, she's too fragile, she will not survive, all this usual blah 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 blah. But there are also rumors that some people can carry specific panther DNA in their blood, which lets them survive the transformation safely. And Carlos gives his blood samples and Caitlyn's blood samples to Shanna's husband because he's a scientist, I guess, to test and search for this DNA. So place your bets here, right here in the moment. Does she have this DNA in her blood or not? They go through the full 1 day of training, during which they kiss again, which is not surprising at all. And also the word growing gets mentioned 1 million times, so I'm about to pass out. I can't deal with this anymore. Please bring in replacement mushroom. Eventually, Caitlyn convinces the Carlos bosses that she has to go with him on the mission because she is a valuable employer. You see, no, because she lived with a tribe in Thailand, so she has some connections. She also knows the language. And what if the translator that they hired for Carlos will lie to him? So that all sounded reasonable. They agreed. Carlos is furious, of course, but cannot do anything. So off they go, which turns out is not such a bad idea because their Thailand connection and translator are acting very, very shady. They have weird tattoos and make some strange phone calls. So they visit this tribe, their village, where Caitlyn says to the village chief, what is the proper name? I don't know. Anyway, he says this chief, her old buddy actually, that they are, with Carlos, pretending to be married, and also that she is pretending not to understand anything. And the chief appeared to be a very funny guy because he performs a ritual and marries them in reality, at least by these tribes' laws. And it sounds, I don't know, to me this sounds very silly and childish, but Carlos takes it very seriously and is very stressed about that. Okay, relax, please. The villagers don't know much about panthers, but what they do know is that there is a very mysterious man-eater somewhere in the jungles. And the description sounds more like a vampire, and our couple knows a lot about vampires. So they decided to go into an expedition into the jungle to find him and kill him. During this expedition, Carlos dies. Again, because he already was on his 5th life or something like that. But after that, he resurrects. And after that, he has a raging boner. And he has to deal with it. But he says this is a number of a very typical post-resurrection stuff, so let's believe him on this. But don't worry, he handles that alone, because Caitlin is in shock, because she didn't know that he could resurrect. She thought he was dead. At least don't make me talk about the whitish puddles he left behind. Where is the replacement Masha? Where? In the same cave, they however find 200 bodies, more like a skeleton, not bodies, laid out in neat rows and covered in clay. But one of these bodies is not a skeleton, it's the full, nicely looking body of a guy, and he's a US Army officer from the period of Vietnam War, and he's supposedly been there for 40 years in this cave. And he doesn't look like a skeleton. And apparently vampires, when vampire turn person, they drain them out their blood, then put them into a coma for a day or two, then give them replacement vampire blood in return, and new vampire is born. Easy. But this guy looks like stuck in this coma for a little more than 1 or 2 days. Did you also like how the Panther plotline just randomly turned into a vampire one? Yeah, me too. On the way back, they are greeted by tigers, who Caitlin can talk to, of course. Actually, they met them on the way to the cave too, but that didn't seem very important at the time, so I admitted that. These tigers are shapeshifters as well. They took our guys to the waterfall, tells them to strip and bath, give them the soap, and took their clothes away. Typical stuff everyone does when they meet people for the first time. I also steal the clothes of all the guests that come to visit me. I also have to force them to come to me too. And I also don't expect anything on the way. We just walk. And I also know, of course, that cats are clean animals, but since when they like water so much? And in the waterfall, they finally did what should have happened 300 pages ago. And for some reason, Carlos is totally okay with this. Now, get the whole I need a real panther thing went out the window. Don't know. Then the tigers take them to the village for introductions and dinner and so on, blah blah blah. Did you also like how the vampire plotline just randomly turned into a tiger one? Yeah, me too. And here during this dinner, Caitlin finds out that Carlos could have bite her and turn her into a panther. And because that's every girl's dream to be a panther, she's mad at him. She's mad at him for keeping this information from her. But that's fine anyway, because he already decided to stay with her. They're married after all. You guys basically remember this army major who stays in a coma, is still in a coma. So yeah, and they turned him into a vampire and teleported to Budapest. It took a team of 7 people for some reason for this task. I don't know why. But hey, the side quest is completed at least. Let's clap. And do you guys basically remember this shady translator and scientist guy? Oh well, yeah, they lured our heroes into a trap and shot them with tranquilizers. And they also shot one of the tigers for a company, I guess, I don't know. And Carlos dies again in the fight. Dude is just burning through lives. Please calm down, I'm worried. But do you guys remember? To be honest, I don't know why do you need to remember a lot of things just to really be, but do you guys remember what happens after a resurrection? Yep. But first he has to go through a shift, and as they are trapped in a prison cell, he can run off somewhere to protect Caitlin. So he just gave her some class to protect herself, but she's thrown it away. And while he is mid-transformation and can't control himself, she baits him into biting her. Because as I said, becoming a panther is a dream come true for any girl in the world. And do you guys want to know who these bad guys working for? Oh, that's easy. For that creepy vampire who created that caves with dead bodies. And for some reason this vampire needs a better shapeshifter, and they really like Carlos. And now the question, another one. How do our heroes plan to escape? Oh, don't worry, they don't. Luckily, the kidnappers left a trail of dead bodies and Carlos' car just by the road where all this fight happened. So our characters just were reported missing, and their vamp and non-vamp friends and Caitlin's dad found out about everything very quickly. What a fortunate coincidence, I might say. But most importantly, either nobody, I did not understand this part, but either nobody took Caitlin's phone, or she had these psychic sister connection power abilities, and at this point I already lost track of their powers, so don't ask me. But she sends everything she can to her sister, including the fact that they arrived in San Francisco. And yes, they made it from Thailand to San Francisco with a bunch of Chinese vampires and the coffins on board. For some reason, I have no idea what happened here. At this moment, sorry, no explanation will follow. So these Chinese vampires stand up and teleports our couple into a creepy temple for a ritual. Actually, I'm not sure if it's a temple. Creepy place for a ritual. And here we finally hear a wild story. Mr. Han is a big vampire boss. He united the clans and at wars, and after some crazy incident went into hibernation. And the legend says so if the cat jumps over his body, he will resurrect. And I really hope that vampire resurrection is different from shapeshifter resurrection, where I don't know where he will find someone for this purpose, I don't know. And yes, they kidnapped Carlos for this. Please don't laugh. Please be respectful of others' problems. Seriously? So the fight breaks out, they threaten Caitlin, and the tiger guy, do you remember the tiger guy who was also kidnapped with them? He jumps over Mr. Han, and for some reason he knows that is what he was supposed to do. Even though he speaks only his tribal language, and during all this trip he could communicate only with Caitlin. Let's assume they use flashcards to explain the task, right? Regardless, it works, and the vampire revives. Did they try this with a regular house cat first before starting all the dangerous and expensive kidnapping stuff? I'm just asking. But guess what? Reinforcements arrives. All these MP friends from the beginning of the book, and Caitlyn's dead, but nobody cares about Caitlyn's dead. Even Caitlyn. How did they find them? You want to know? Well, Caitlyn's sister got the San Francisco clue. That's good, alright. And they apparently already had someone in San Francisco. That's also good. And this person, I guess, just knew where to go because San Francisco is tiny, right? 2 streets total. Sorry, I'm not from America, I don't know, but it seems like that. He disguised himself as a monk and joined the ritual. Simple like that. No other explanation fits, because, like 20 minutes has passed between their arrival and the climax scene. But unfortunately, Mr. Han escaped. So our good vamps still have a lot of work to do in the future. Anyway, no more vampire drama because our lovebirds got properly married. But the full moon is approaching, which means Caitlyn will start transforming into a panther and possibly die. But don't worry, our science team extracted panther DNA from Carlos's blood and gives it Caitlyn in small amounts in order to ease her transformation. Did it work? Of course it did. Happy ending, folks. And they live happily ever after and have a bunch of little adorable kittens, I guess. Oh, in case you were wondering, no, they never found any special DNA in Caitlyn herself. So if you bet on this outcome, well, congrats. You won the right to read any book from this wonderful series. Enjoy. What a wonderful journey this was. What conclusions can we draw? Well, the cover matches the content perfectly, at least in this case. This was a crazy read, full of awkward jokes and strange plot swerves. I know that all of that, or at least I hope it's true, all of that is intentional, and this is a part of a genre, but it still was very fun to read and fun to talk about. If you like the format, tell me in the comments. Throw the book whose covers you find atrocious in the comments too. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you next time. Bye!